With Suho gaining another teammate companion in the form of our beloved fan-favorite demon waifu Essel.
You love me too much.
Things have suddenly become even more exciting now that Suho's not the only one who's able to level up, aside from the shadows, of course. Now it really feels like we're forming a JRPG party who can all level up and will soon be able to beat up any powerful boss who'd show up. And as the plot thickens after beating that grim dungeon and learning a lot about the Iterum invasion, we are finally led to Egypt due to an emergency. And things are about to heat up in the desert. Let's get started. In the next scene, we went back 30 minutes into the past. Upon entering the Red Gate, Suho and his friends commented that this was a desert-type dungeon, causing sand to fly out of the gate on the other side. Biru mentioned that he sensed powerful mana coming from the pyramid they could see here, while Suho wondered why he was seeing things that shouldn't be inside a dungeon. They saw cars and even barbed wire fences that appeared to belong to a guild because they had guild marks on them. Suho was also puzzled about why such things were there since he knew that machines don't work inside dungeons, which made Essel comment that maybe this place wasn't a dungeon, or perhaps they had crossed through to a world line where that was possible, to which Biru replied that couldn't happen. Suho brushed off that issue and just said that as long as the original gate remained in the Shadow Dungeon, they shouldn't have any problems. Then, he decided to take a quick look, to which Essel responded that he was right because it was better to monitor it. Using the Shadow Key, he entered the Shadow Dungeon, and when he came out, Essel and the others seemed speechless at his expression and asked how it was, to which he worriedly said that the gate had disappeared. While this was happening, we shifted to the gate they had entered from Korea, and here the recruits were also worried because the gate had started to disappear. One of them asked if this meant the boss had been defeated, but their recruiter hadn't come out yet. Because of this, they decided to immediately call the emergency line. Next, we returned to the present where Suho encountered the Scavenger Guild and Azura Guild arguing about who would get this dungeon. While observing the two guilds, Suho felt relieved because there were people here, and he also thought that these might be the owners of the cars outside. Because he heard them speaking English, he thought he might be in another country now. Using the English language, he asked them where he was while thinking it was fortunate that he had studied that language while preparing for college. When Rio noticed Suho, he realized that not only the Scavenger Guild, but also people from the East were here to claim ownership of this dungeon. Randolph commented that there was another nuisance, and he hadn't thought that so many insects would gather in this place. While he was staring at him, we went to a point in time where we see him talking to a man familiar to us, who was telling him that Granny had made a prophecy. She apparently said the words, "A life born of death which appeared from the shattered seal will appear at the tomb, possessing powers to raise the dead." He explained that after Granny said that, a pyramid field-type dungeon appeared in Egypt. He pointed out how the tomb of Egypt, the pyramid, and death corresponded too well. He ordered him to claim that dungeon so he could raid it after finishing what he was taking care of, which made Randolph ask what he wanted to do if other guilds interfered. His boss looked at him and asked why he was even asking that, and pointed out that he should just do it the scavenger way. Next, we returned to the present, and here Randolph was telling Suho that if he was a hunter who came here for this dungeon, he would give him a final warning that if he left right now, he would let him go, while Suho commented in his mind that this place where they were was actually a dungeon. He also said in his mind that if this was a dungeon, he had no choice but to defeat this place to clear the urgent quest. He asked Randolph what if he didn't want to do what he wanted, to which he replied that it was simple. He would just have to kill him. While Randolph was saying that, he quickly grabbed his two-handed warhammer to strike Suho. Essel, Gray, and even Rio were alarmed when they saw this. However, unexpectedly for Randolph, Suho evaded and quickly positioned himself in front of him and pointed out that he was the first to attack. Next, he delivered a solid right straight using his Vulcan's horn, which hit his body. Suho commented in his mind that he couldn't tell how much damage he could do because his strength had increased. He also thought that he had attacked his armor, so he shouldn't die from that. When he turned to look at Randolph's face, he saw that he looked furious. To his surprise, Randolph still managed to punch him in the face as a counter, which puzzled him and sent him flying into a nearby wall. Angrily, He said to him, who did he think he was going easy on? Next, Randolph ordered his companions to kill the Azura Guild and the Asian man here. Essel and Gray immediately prepared to fight, while Essel said how dare he attack the young monarch. Rio also had his companions prepare and shouted that if so, the Scavenger Guild was really looking for a fight. Biru approached Suho and worriedly asked if he was okay, to which he replied yes. He commented here that it seemed hunters still needed to fight here. He also asked if it was correct that to clear the urgent quest, they needed to win this battle, to which Biru replied that it seemed necessary for this raid. Afterward, he said that for now, he was sure that the guild with the armored man who attacked him was the enemy. Following that, he prepared and before long rapidly jumped on walls and pillars to gain leverage. When he got above a member of the Scavenger Guild, he forcefully kicked him in the face, shattering his helmet. However, his eyes were still open, and he even commented that what he was showing was surprising. Next, he exchanged attacks with him, while he added who would have thought that a weak hunter would oppose them from the Scavenger Guild. He should have just listened to those stronger than him. In Suho's mind, he was saying that he had tried to put this man to sleep earlier, but he had withstood it, so he also wondered how tough their opponents were here. He also contemplated whether it was okay to use his fighting technique that utilized ruler's authority, which he had only recently learned, on a person. He continued to have second thoughts about using it while charging at the enemy, where unexpectedly Rio also charged at his opponent and cut his neck without hesitation. Because of this, the enemy immediately lost his life and fell to the ground. Suho thanked Rio, while Rio told him that he had seen his skill when he evaded an attack from Randolph. But he had also noticed his hesitation, so he asked if he was afraid to kill people. He pointed out to him that magic beasts weren't the only threats to a hunter. It would be better for him to resolve himself if he wanted to protect himself from dangerous people like lizards and false rankers. Suho thought about this when he heard it, and said he thought his resolve was enough when he prepared himself to fight with his life, but now he was confused that it wasn't enough. He also said that until now, he hadn't felt the need to murder. Even when he fought the Hyena Guild, he was able to go easy on them since there was an extreme difference in skill. However, he questioned how long those favorable situations would continue. Situations where he would die if he didn't kill, and situations where he wouldn't be able to protect if he didn't kill. He realized that he would continuously be put in those kinds of situations in this post-cataclysm world. He said he had forgotten about that since all he was thinking about was leveling up, and realized what he needed to do here was to throw away his pre-cataclysm way of thinking. That's what he needed to do to fight Li Minsung. Next, Rio introduced himself to him, and while he was just encouraging him to team up because the Scavenger Guild was their only common problem here, there was an enemy that Rio didn't notice rushing behind him. In response, Suho moved quickly, surprising Rio, and rapidly dented the face of the Scavenger Guild member before he could get close to them. The power of his punch there sent him flying, and it appeared this was because he was no longer hesitating to use ruler's authority in his punch. The opponent who was sent flying landed at Randolph's feet, and he saw there that his face was completely battered. Suho got his attention when he noticed that he had almost killed a B-rank tank using just one attack. He smirked while looking at Suho and commented how interesting he was, while Suho introduced himself to Rio and agreed to the alliance. The battle between the two guilds continued inside the tomb. A member of the Scavenger Guild shouted that the Azura Guild was cooperating with another hunter party, to which his companion commented that weak beings joining together would still remain weak. He said they were stronger compared to them, and they were more numerous there. While showing Rio the Shadow Key, Suho said that they haven't revealed their full strength yet though. After opening the Shadow Dungeon Gate, he used Awaken, and the giant arachne and its spawns he killed earlier started coming out of it, scaring the enemies. Rio was surprised and couldn't believe that despite Suho's martial arts prowess, he was also a summoner, and many of them were active simultaneously. After that, Suho cracked his knuckles and said he would join the charge too. The giant arachne immediately targeted the Scavenger Guild members, forcing their tanks to use their shields and protect themselves. Behind them, Randolph prepared to charge, and in an instant, he quickly jumped towards Suho's summon and using just one swing of his warhammer, he easily destroyed it. He shouted afterward that Suho was hiding a lot and how fun the battle was. Suho was irritated by this, while Biru explained that perhaps the giant Arachne had become weaker after becoming a shadow soldier. But to defeat a monster that had given the young monarch trouble with just one blow was indeed attention-getting, which also made him comment that Randolph really seemed to be the strongest among them in that place. Suho was pleased because of the good timing and immediately told Gray to use their bond skill. Essel caught his attention and smilingly said just a moment. She suggested to him if they could use their bond skill instead and pointed out that they had learned a method to increase the charging rate while they were going around the gate. While Gray was irritated at Essel's interruption, Suho said it was somewhat risky to use a skill he hadn't used in actual combat yet. Essel was disappointed by this and commented that her chance of being useful to him had really decreased. Suddenly, something was destroyed behind her, and mummy monsters began to emerge from there. While blocking the charge of one of them, Rio asked if they were attracted by the noise of their fighting. Essel informed them that those monsters were also at the entrance. Randolph thought about this and commented that now he truly understood the prophecy his boss had heard. In his mind, he deduced that if the dead being raised referred to the mummies, it meant that the being mentioned there was inside this dungeon. The being born of death that broke the seal. He added that his boss's order was to take ownership of the dungeon, but because the competition between the two guilds was heating up here, just obtaining the power to raise the dead that his master wanted would be more appropriate now. Suddenly, his eyes gleamed while watching Suho fight, and he became reluctant to back off at this point. After staring at him, he closed his eyes briefly to think. While this was happening, we shifted to a completely shocked Rio, because he heard Randolph shouting for the members of the Scavenger Guild to follow him and not to mind the other hunters, but to go straight to the boss room. Rio also quickly shouted to inform his companions about the move the Scavenger Guild was making. But just as he was saying to stop them, they were stopped by numerous mummies rushing at them. Here Rio noticed that they were using these monsters to keep them busy, and he was irritated that coincidentally, the path to the boss was on their side, to which Suho commented that at this rate, they might also lose the reward. He shouted to Gray to use their bond skill, and after they merged, he faced a bigger mummy compared to the others there. The monster tried to attack him, but using his speed, in an instant, he punched it 3 times in different parts of its body, and immediately followed with several more mummies. At that moment, he took down many monsters, which greatly surprised Rio. He spoke to him to hurry up and finishing them off so they could catch up to the Scavenger Guild. Rio was completely amazed because he saw that not only could he summon, but he could also merge with them, while Essel was just crying in sadness because Suho wasn't using their bond skill. In the next scene, while heading to the boss room, Randolph thought that Suho seemed to be hiding more. He wanted to fight him after getting the power to raise the dead. Before long, they reached a metal gate, so he wondered if this was the boss room. When this door opened, they saw inside a monster chained up using numerous glowing chains. One member commented that it looked like the boss, while another asked if it was sleeping. While looking at it, Randolph wondered why it was chained up, and he thought that this might be what the prophecy referred to as the beings that's born of death that would emerge after the seal was broken. The monster then began to speak in a strange language, which made one member ask if it was monster language and if it was trying to talk to them. The monster paused briefly when it noticed something, and before long, it started speaking again while forcefully breaking the numerous chains on its body. Randolph shouted for his companions to prepare for battle because of this. When the monster removed the chains, it used them as whips and lashed them at the Scavenger Guild. After that attack, only Randolph remained, and the monster began walking toward him. Fear was visible on Randolph's face as he thought about how their tanks, known for their toughness, were taken down after the monster just swung those chains around. As it approached him, the monster raised both its hands and exposed its entire body. This made Randolph think if it was telling him to attack it. He bit down hard when he realized this, and said all of them were just looking down on him. Due to his frustration, he used his skill called Giant's Armor to buff himself. After that, he tried to strike the monster's side, causing a large shockwave. However, the monster didn't even move slightly, nor did it sustain any wounds on its body. Randolph became even more frightened because his all-out attack did nothing. The monster spoke again while preparing to punch, and Randolph began to apologize to his master. He said he should have waited for him to come here. The monster made a fist, and using a powerful punch, it sent Randolph's body flying to the top of the room's door and also almost obliterated his entire abdomen. Next, we were made to understand what the monster was saying, and it was disappointed that the first living being it saw was easily destroyed after it played with it for a bit. It just brushed it off and moved on, and said that it seemed there were still some living beings there. While leaving the room, it planned to have some fun using the other toys outside. In the next scene, we return to Suho, where he delivers a solid kick to a mummy, shattering its face. He commented in his mind that these creatures were endless, and thought that if that was the case, he would just use shadow extraction on them. However, when he tried to do so, a notification appeared stating that old souls couldn't be extracted. This confused him, and he recalled that he couldn't use it on demons either, which made him comment that this skill had more restrictions than he initially thought. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled and began to break apart, startling the hunters. Giant centipede monsters emerged from below, alarming everyone present because they hadn't even finished dealing with the mummies yet. These beasts began to charge at the hunters, who used their respective speed to evade them. Essel moved quickly, attempting to pierce one of the centipedes with her spear, but her attack merely slipped off its body. She said her attacks weren't working because these creatures were too tough. Rio called out to Suho and pointed out that being overrun by monsters like in their current situation was bad. He was apparently extremely pissed at the Scavenger Guild after they stole the rights to a field-type dungeon, but he thought they should retreat now, to which Suho agreed that it seemed necessary. In Suho's mind, he mentioned that the urgent quest required him to resolve the cause of the dimensional crack, but he wasn't certain that the Scavenger Guild, who were trying to take down the boss, would allow him to clear that quest. He questioned himself if it was really okay to back out like this. Before long, the boss arrived in their area. As soon as it stepped on the ground, Rio immediately sensed immense danger, which made him turn toward the monster. He also noticed that this monster came from the path that the Scavenger Guild had taken earlier, and he was concerned that there was yet another problem adding to their situation. In Suho's situation, he said that perhaps it was due to the increase in his sense stat after leveling up, but he could definitely feel that this extraordinary monster with the red name, the prisoner of the tomb, Amit, was a calamity unlike any other he had sensed before. As the boss approached them, it suddenly uttered the words "disappear," which caused the mummies' bodies to twitch. Essel was surprised because they stopped attacking. She was bewildered about why the mummies suddenly retreated after hearing the monster's voice telling them to disappear. Suddenly, Amit jumped in front of Essel, causing Suho to shout in concern. Amit spoke to Essel and pointed out that what she was hearing from him was monster language. So he asked if she understood his words, to which Essel agreed and introduced herself as a member of the demon race. Amit laughed at this and said that the only things he saw every day were the dead who lacked intelligence and bugs strewn about the desert. It had been so long since he had faced an individual he could talk to. While Essel was wondering why the monster was friendlier than its appearance suggested, a centipede monster tried to rush her. However, the dungeon boss himself killed that monster using just a single swing of his hand. Essel was completely shocked when she saw him one-hit the centipede. After that, Amit said that before they could talk, it seemed he needed to clean up the monsters that didn't understand when he ordered them to leave. In an instant, the boss vanished from Essel's sight, and he took down each of the giant centipedes with just one strike each. Suho was amazed that one monster was killing other monsters there. While Amit was taking down one beast, a centipede managed to get behind him, and it swallowed his body whole. However, he repeatedly attacked the insides of this monster, and before long, he easily blew its face apart with his attacks. He also commented, as their blood dripped down his face, that he hated bugs. Shock and confusion were visible on Rio's face and those of his guildmates, and he questioned why a monster so powerful that it could kill countless centipede monsters in the blink of an eye was here. He was definitely sure that this field-type dungeon was ranked C to B according to their investigation. After Amit finished off the monsters, he said that it seemed there were still beings there who couldn't communicate with him. He prepared himself and in a swift move, appeared beside Rio, ready to attack while saying they should die. Rio managed to react and tried to block with his two swords, while Essel screamed in alarm. Fortunately, Suho rushed in and, using his fist imbued with ruler's authority, punched the advancing boss in the face. Suho questioned what was wrong with this monster's sense of values, wanting to kill them just because they couldn't communicate with him. Amit was intrigued that there was a human who could speak his language. He brought up what Suho said about values and pointed out that he had never considered such things. Afterward, he positioned himself and powerfully kicked Suho as a counter, and the force was so great that it sent rubble flying toward Rio and his companions. Suho crashed into the wall, causing it to crumble and making him cough up blood. Essel screamed and cried in extreme concern when she saw this, and immediately confronted Amit, calling him a bastard while asking how dare he do that to the young monarch, which made the monster ask if Suho was her companion. Not much of an apology, Amit said, but he wouldn't kill her. He added that if Essel was a member of the demon race, she should know a lot about this. It would be better if she could relieve his curiosity. Amit asked Essel if the war between the Shadow Monarch and the other monarchs was over, and if it was, who had won. Essel commented in her mind wondering what was with this monster and was puzzled about how it knew about the war between the monarchs. While the unconscious Suho leaned against the wall, Amit asked her again if she had no intention of answering, and if so, it couldn't be helped. It was also visible that Gray had lost consciousness and Biru was trying to wake Suho up. The boss added that whether they were monsters who couldn't understand his language or a demon who refused to answer him, if they couldn't converse, they all looked the same to him. Amit raised his foot and prepared to deliver a foot stomp to Essel while saying she should die. Suho's consciousness seemed to partially return, and using his remaining strength, he struggled to access his reward for status recovery. His body began to regenerate, which made the monster turn toward him. He stretched at this point while saying it was a good thing he hadn't touched his quest rewards. Next, he told the monster that if it was referring to the Great War between the monarchs, he had heard a few things about it. He pointed out that all the monarchs died at the hands of the Shadow Monarch. He caught Amit's interest, who asked if that was true, while Essel was completely shocked by what he did. Amit then asked him if he meant that while he was trapped in this place, the war between the monarchs had already ended, to which Suho agreed. He thought to himself that if this monster was asking about the war between the monarchs, perhaps it was also a monarch's kin. He also realized that the strength of this alligator monster was at least equivalent to S rank, so even slight provocation would result in certain death. Amit began walking towards Suho while saying that in the end, the Shadow Monarch won the war. He added that if he killed all the monarchs, that meant Tarnak, the monarch of the Iron Body, died at his hands. He stretched after saying this, as if preparing for a fight. Suho commented in his mind that since this monster mentioned the monarch of the Iron Body, he was likely an Iron Body type monster. While he was just thinking that if it discovered who his father was, it would attack him, he immediately tried to stomp on him, which alarmed Essel. The ground shattered due to the powerful stomp of this boss, but fortunately, Suho had enough speed to dash out of his AoE and evade. He suddenly asked what Amit was doing here, to which the monster replied that given how slow he was to respond, he was sure he was thinking of a lie. If he didn't answer quickly, he would kill him. This irritated Suho, who commented that his criteria for killing was too loose. Next, Amit asked him again if the monarch of the Iron Body died at the hands of the Shadow Monarch, to which he quickly agreed and said that the latter killed all the monarchs, while wondering if the monster would go berserk because of that. He was surprised by Amit's reaction when he said that's why the Iron Body Monarch never came to find him. The monster seemed delighted as he mentioned that the monarch of the Iron Body had gone to hell, and he apparently needed to thank the Shadow Monarch for this. Suho wondered why he was laughing, and asked if Amit wasn't kin to the monarch of the Iron Body, to which he questioned his statement, and, while preparing to deliver a powerful punch, said he didn't like the sound of that. He shouted again for Suho to die and quickly punched toward him. However, suddenly new chains attached to his broken handcuffs, stopping his attack. Amit was irritated and commented in his mind that here were these chains again and wondered if he had exceeded the domain he was allowed to move in. The chains began to pull, and due to their strength, they were able to drag a powerful monster like Amit. Amit cursed at them in extreme frustration and also became angry at Tarnak and a spellcaster. Before long, Amit was completely pulled back into the tomb he came from, leaving Suho speechless at everything that had happened. He thought that he didn't know what was happening here, but it gave him relief. Essel immediately approached him and asked if he was okay, to which he agreed. He said that given they were now aware of that monster's existence, they should act with caution. When he saw that Gray was trembling and tearful from his injuries, he decided to give him and the Azura Guild emergency medical care while they still could. Suddenly, Suho felt a strange aura, and a quest tab appeared regarding an urgent quest called Dimensional Crack. It started to glitch, which worried Suho and made him wonder what was happening. Essel asked him if there was a problem, so he pointed out that the emergency quest had changed. Now, he apparently needed to free Amit, the heir of the Iron Body, from this pyramid. When he read that, he was puzzled by it. Next, as they entered the corridor from which Amit had emerged, they saw the lifeless bodies of the Scavenger Guild, which made him comment that this was where they were annihilated by Amit. When they arrived in front of the monster, he commented that he couldn't believe he came there to find him, and admitted that he had guts because of that. He explained that he came because he wanted to have a proper conversation with him, which made Amit ask if they hadn't already talked earlier, so he said that he couldn't call that a conversation because he was trying to kill him. "Is that so?" said Amit, pointing out that was all he had learned from Tarnak. If he was going to complain, he said he should send his complaints to Tarnak's rotting body. Suho thought that Amit seemed violent, but looked at him like an honest child. He couldn't believe he needed to recruit this kind of individual. He commented that it seemed Amit didn't like the monarch of the Iron Body, and asked if he could tell him about that. Amit wondered why Suho came there, because he was curious about this of all things. Since that was his only pastime because he was chained up, he said he would tell him. He introduced himself and said that the monarch of the Iron Body, Tarnak, and a spellcaster made him before abandoning him in this tomb. Suho wondered if he heard correctly that the monarch of the Iron Body and a spellcaster created him, so Amit confirmed, saying that those two transformed a normal man into what he was now. They abandoned him in this tomb full of the dead, while bound by these infernal chains. Suho asked if he couldn't cut those chains, to which Amit replied that the chains were made using magic. Even if he broke them, if he went too far from the tomb, they would appear again. Because of these chains, he had never been able to enter the depths of this tomb. Angrily, he said he would never forgive Tarnak and the spellcaster who decided to torment him in this way. Suho thought that the quest content said to free Amit, so he needed to remove those chains binding Amit one way or another. He asked himself how he would remove the chains if they continued to reappear. If all he had to do was pull out the stakes in the wall, he was sure Amit would have already done that. He realized something when he noticed the stakes, so he immediately asked Amit if the monsters were in the tomb when he was sealed here, to which he agreed. If so, he asked, was he not the master of this dungeon? To which Amit pointed out that he was not the master of this place. Next, he asked if he had seen a room with a large steel door here. So Amit said the only room he knew was the one they were in, because he hadn't been able to explore the depths of this tomb due to the chains. Amit then asked him why he was bombarding him with these questions. Suho thought that it was odd. There shouldn't have been a problem with letting Amit roam around inside the dungeon. So he asked himself, why did the spellcaster make the chains reappear after Amit reached a certain distance? He thought of a theory, and to confirm if it was correct, he asked Amit if he freed him, would he listen to his request, to which Amit asked if he was saying he would free him. He pointed out that no matter what method he used, if he truly managed to free him, he would do whatever Suho said. He then asked if he mean he would kill the spellcaster without knowing where he was, or perhaps he had found a method to lift the chain spell. Next, he suddenly broke the chains while asking if he dared to say those words as a mere joke. Was he aware of what would happen to him? Essel was alarmed by this, while Suho said Amit should just listen to him before making a decision. He told him that he would bring down this dungeon, which caught Amit's attention. He pointed out that Amit said he couldn't enter the depths of this dungeon because of the chains, so if according to the spellcaster's intentions, didn't that mean the spellcaster was concerned that he might kill the dungeon master? So if the dungeon collapsed after the dungeon master was defeated, what did Amit think would happen to the stakes of the chains after their purpose was gone? If the stakes no longer served their purpose, Wouldn't those chains lose their meaning? He added. Amit pondered this for a moment, and before long, commented that it was an entertaining idea. In the next scene, Suho entered the deeper part of the dungeon, while Biru remained beside Amit. Tearfully, Biru asked why he chose this uncivilized reptile to be his ally instead of him, so Amit told him to stop acting like a fruit fly. Biru was annoyed by this and asked if he wanted to die by the hands of his original body, but Amit just brushed it off and said who would have thought that child was the son of the Shadow Monarch. He stood up and stared at the deeper part of the dungeon and began to explain that this was as far as he could go inside the tomb. He said that quite some time had passed since Suho went inside. If he failed to kill the dungeon master, that would mean failure, and if the dungeon collapsed but he wasn't released from his chains, that would also mean failure. However, he added that for whatever reason, he felt the conviction in Suho's voice earlier asking if he'd get him out of here, he would hear her out. He thought about this for a moment and remembered Tarnak. He addressed him in his mind, saying that Tarnak claimed physical strength was true strength and created him, but he said that even beings weaker than them could seem so big. Here, he showed his trust in Suho by saying that if this kid went there, perhaps he really could free him from this place. Next, we moved to Suho's situation where he took down a giant humanoid golem by detaching its head from its body. He took a deep breath after that, while Essel was ready to back him up. He commented that there was only one left in this room, while looking at a being seated on a throne at the top of a high staircase. We were brought closer to this being, and it turned out to be a red-named monster with the name the tomb's warden, Sheikah. Suddenly, the scene shifted to a point in time before Suho and his companions went to Sheikah's tomb, and here they were trying to get Amit into the shadow dungeon. But as Suho expected, he was still being restrained by the chains. Amit said that the moment he thought about wanting to leave this place, the chains would just appear and restrain him, which made Suho comment that this spell was truly troublesome. He added that, well, it's not like he thought this plan would work, and he was just trying to confirm it. Next, he explained that there were two things in their plan that they needed to do first. The first was that he and Essel needed to defeat the boss monster and make the dungeon collapse. Once that was done, they would execute the second task, which was to remove the function of the chains when the pillars were destroyed. After that, Amit would be freed from the chains, and he would join Biru in them, and then they would enter the shadow dungeon to escape from this collapsing dungeon. Amit asked if they failed in either of the two tasks, would the entire plan fail? So Suho said he had a backup plan if that happened. Amit replied that he should forget about it because whatever happens, it would be better for him to remain trapped in this place. In the next scene, we return to the present where Sheikah was preparing to launch an attack against Suho and Essel. Using the orb he was holding, he controlled the sand to become sand serpents and quickly sent them toward our protagonist. Suho also charged forward to counter this attack, and when he encountered them, he quickly sliced through them using his sword skills. However, they rapidly regenerated, which alarmed him. He commented in his mind that he couldn't get close to this tomb's warden because of the sand. Seeing that its name was red in color, he thought it was at least a rank in strength. At that rate, he would run out of mana before he could finish this battle. He needed to end this as soon as he could. On the side, Essel prepared and positioned herself, then immediately threw her spear towards Sheikah. Suho emerged from being enveloped in sand, and using his ruler's authority, he controlled the thrown spear to go straight for the tomb's warden's head. However, the boss easily deflected that attack. While running, Suho shouted to Essel to use their bond skill, to which Essel happily agreed and thought that finally, they would use it. She began emitting a powerful orb, and explained that the charging requirement of the bond skill she learned while ramming gates with the young monarch was that when she killed monsters, she could absorb their souls, and the charging rate of the bond skill would increase. As she released a red and black energy beam, she directed the aura it emitted towards Suho's fists. Suho quickly charged forward with his fists imbued with his and Essel's bond skill and moved to Sheikah's side. In Essel's situation, her energy was immediately depleted after using it, causing her to collapse on the ground. Weakly, she thought that all she had shown the young monarch so far was her pathetic side. She hoped that her bond skill would help defeat that boss monster. Sheikah tried to match Suho using his own fists. A tab popped up showing Essel and Suho's bond skill Demon Blast with a charge amount of 67%, which when used would allow him to receive the energy of the descendant of white flames, enabling him to discharge a powerful blast. While charging toward the enemy, Suho thought that he would give everything to this attack. His fist landed solidly on Sheikah's side while avoiding his counter. With the power of their bond skill, he managed to split the tomb's warden's body in two. Afterward, we went to Biru, and here the tomb began to shake and gradually intensified, making him think that the dungeon was collapsing, while Amit realized that Suho and Essel had likely succeeded in defeating the dungeon master. The wall where the stakes and chains were embedded also started to crack, and before long, they detached one by one. Biru immediately urged Amit to follow him, saying they would go to the young monarch. In Amit's mind, he commented that if the chains no longer restrained him here, he would finally be free from Tarnak. He also said that he still had no idea why Tarnak and the spellcaster experimented on a normal demon like him. All he remembered were the excruciating memories of being destroyed and regenerated over and over again. He said Tarnak would destroy his body, and the spellcaster would restore it. According to him, as the experiment continued, his body grew stronger as per their plan. However, he said his mind couldn't handle the pain, so he gouged out his own eyes and slowly transformed to enjoy the pain. He added that during his suffering, he had one wish that pushed him to continue. That was the desire to feel again the majesty of the great nature that he saw when he was young. After thinking about this, he took his first step toward Biru. However, just as he was thinking that if he could make that happen, he would be happy, suddenly a stake with a chain flew toward his side. Biru screamed in alarm when he saw this, while Amit was shocked when the stakes began flying toward him. Amit was severely hit, causing him to spit blood, and as more stakes continued to fly toward him, he shouted in anger the names of Tarnak and the spellcaster. He was hurt that they would rather kill him than allow him to be free. Fortunately, Suho arrived and began kicking away the flying stakes. However, due to the extreme hardness of those stakes, it caused Suho's foot to shatter, which also worried Biru. The stake he kicked flew back again, so he thought of a plan. He took out the key to the shadow dungeon and threw it on the ground while thinking that if the chains wouldn't release Amit, he needed to redirect the stakes elsewhere. When the shadow dungeon opened, he kicked the stakes into it. As Amit watched this, he questioned in his mind why Suho was doing this. What did he want so badly that he would go as far as becoming bloodied for him? While directing the stakes into the shadow dungeon, Suho commented in his mind that his bones couldn't take this anymore. Unexpectedly, Amit suddenly helped him redirect them into the shadow dungeon even though he was already in critical condition. He told him that now he understood why Tarnak and all the monarchs were defeated by the shadow monarch. Suho's eyes widened when he heard this, while Amit asked if all they needed to do was direct the stakes inside that gate. Even as blood continued to flow from his side and mouth, he invited Suho to put their final struggle together on this task. They both positioned themselves and prepared to redirect all the stakes, while Amit shouted out to the young monarch. As these were approaching them, the scene suddenly shifted. After a few moments, we were shown the unconscious Essel. Before long, she opened her eyes, and the first person she saw was Biru asking if she was awake. She immediately noticed that Suho had sent her to the shadow dungeon because she ran out of energy, so she asked how he was doing now and what had happened to Amit. Biru silenced her and told her not to be noisy because those two were currently resting. When she turned, she saw Suho and the others, which brought joy to her face. While looking at them, she happily said that he had succeeded. Next, we were shown Suho and Amit resting together on one side, and an alert tab appeared showing that Suho had recruited the heir of the Iron Body as his teammate. An alert also appeared that he had completed the urgent quest called Dimensional Crack. He leveled up, and quest rewards arrived as usual. After that, we suddenly shifted scenes and went to a man's office. He was looking at Jinwa's information on a tablet, and he commented in his mind that something started upon his disappearance. Hunters and gates began to reappear. Thanks to the memories of the previous world that Jinwu gave him, he quickly managed to set up the Hunter Association and remove the chaos of the Great Cataclysm. He said here that the existence of Stardust meant that something that didn't happen in the former world was happening in the present. He pondered this stimulant that didn't exist in the previous world, but it could increase the mana of low-rank hunters without any side effects. What they had discovered up until now was that Stardust was being distributed by Lee Min-sung, the vice leader of the Grim Reaper Guild. Seeing how he was doing this while their guild master, Hunter Lim Taegyu, was on an overseas trip, meant there was a high chance he was acting alone for this. He doubted that Min-sung was a person with the capability for this level of distribution in the past world, so he had a feeling there was a culprit behind this. Suddenly, this man's phone rang, and when he answered it, he commented that it was extremely rare for this man to call him, and he even called him sir. This man apologized for the sudden call and addressed him as association leader. He said that he could contact him anytime and pointed out that he had greatly helped the Hunter Association during their formation years. It turns out that Jinho was the one calling, and he anxiously said that he was calling the man because he needed the Hunter Association's help, which surprised the man. He pointed out that his nephew had awakened as a hunter, and he thought that he was now trapped in a gate. Before long, it was revealed that Jinchul was the one Jinho was talking to as he begged for help. Jinchul asked if by his nephew, he meant Suho, and we saw here his deep concern when he heard the news. In the next scene, we will see Ryo and other members of the Azura Guild inside one of the vehicles outside the tomb. Suho called the sleeping Ryo in the passenger's seat and woke him up. He explained that the dungeon had been cleared, and then asked if he could borrow his phone, while the events were still somewhat blurry to Ryo. But before long he shouted because he couldn't believe that the dungeon had been cleared. After that, they went home and recovered. At the airport, before Suho left, Ryo told him that he wouldn't forget how he saved them in the pyramid field. He added that they should keep in contact even after he returned to Korea, to which he agreed, and also thanked him for helping him get a flight back to his country, as well as for helping him contact his uncle. Suho said in his mind here that Jinho said he reported it to an acquaintance of his at the Hunter Association, so he might need to visit the Hunter Association soon. Ryo suddenly commented that what happened in the dungeon was strange. He wondered why a demon monster that seemed to be S rank or above would suddenly retreat and let the dungeon collapse. So Suho nervously agreed that it was strange. He just said that he was really lucky there while thinking that he couldn't tell him what really happened with Amit. Next, we went back to a point in time in the Shadow Dungeon before Suho and the others left. Suho said here that in the end, Amit's chains couldn't be removed, and he couldn't leave the Shadow Dungeon because of that. He added that since he didn't release his seal, wouldn't he hold him to his promise? Amit replied that he shouldn't worry too much because the original promise was for Suho to remove him from the tomb. Perhaps it was because the stakes were scattered around the place, but he had more freedom of movement here compared to the tomb, so this was much more comfortable than that tiny place. While listening, Suho commented in his mind that Amit's vibe had changed greatly here. Suddenly, Amit grabbed him by his hoodie and jumped to the rooftop of a building there, which startled Essel. When they reached the rooftop, he added that although faint, he could feel the great nature that he had greatly missed in this place. So as a promise, he said he would follow him, which made Suho smile. After that, we returned to the present where while Suho was saying goodbye to Ryo and the others, he was saying in his mind that a gate opened in the Shadow Dungeon and an urgent quest appeared. So he thought all of that was for him to meet Amit as his teammate. In Ryo's mind, he was amazed at Suho's abilities to summon monsters, fight, and even transform, but despite all of that, he was only a B rank hunter. Because of that, he thought he needed to contact his guild to scout him. While boarding the airplane, Biru commented that it had been quite a while since he rode something like this. So Suho said it couldn't be helped since the gate connecting to Korea had closed. He also said here that he managed to level up 7 times thanks to defeating the boss monster and completing the urgent quest, so now he was level 35. After that, he asked Biru in his current state, what hunter rank did he think he was, so Biru said he thought he was now at A rank. Because of that, he commented that his preparation seemed mostly done. It was time to launch their counterattack against Min-sung and the Iterum Apostle. In the next scene, in the evening, we went to a city where the building of the Chivalry Guild was located. A member here said that their guild had really grown. They used to be just a C rank hunter guild, but now they had acquired the rights to a B rank gate in Onii-Chan, to which another member agreed and added that they also had a larger office. The first member said here that all of that was thanks to Stardust. Thanks to it, they were able to go to a B rank gate even though they were all just C rank hunters. Another member commented here that buying it in the black market these days had become easier, and it had become cheaper. He said he didn't know who made it, but he was greatly thankful for it. Another member asked if it was really that good because he felt there was something off about it. We were then introduced to this member who was reluctant to use Stardust, Kim Sung-soo, a B-rank hunter, and one member got angry at him because he was a B-rank hunter to begin with, so he wouldn't understand what they were feeling. Sung-soo told them that he heard the Hunter Association was considering passing a law prohibiting the use of that Stardust. One member was surprised by this and asked if they would really do that even though it had no side effects, and wouldn't it be better if hunters could use it to close more gates? Another one said it was extremely frustrating since they weren't doing anything for low-rank guilds like them. Sung-soo replied that he couldn't do anything about it even if they complained to him. Someone arrived at their office, so they turned toward the door with puzzled faces, and when they looked, they saw the Outer Worlder with his two subordinates. The Outer Worlder told his companions that this was the Chivalry Guild. He also asked the members there if they were the guild that had rights to the gate that appeared in Oniii-Chan. Sung-soo was perplexed by his appearance as a boy and asked what this child came to them for, to which the Outer Worlder said they should give him the gate, which puzzled him again. Because of that, he suddenly controlled his guild companions and seriously repeated for them to give him the gate. One of those he controlled called him Apostle and said they would follow his orders, while Sung-soo was shocked and worriedly asked what kind of joke they were playing there. He asked why they suddenly stood up and bowed to this child, while the Outer Worlder commented that it seemed there were hunters there who did not consume Stardust, and said this situation was perfect. He pointed out to those present that from now on, none of them were allowed to use their sight or hearing, so those he controlled closed their eyes and covered their ears. Sung-soo was extremely worried and asked why they were following the orders of that child, while the Outer Worlder said he wanted to talk to other humans besides the asshole he was referring to, who might be Minsung. He explained that their creator wished to possess the rights to a world without a master, so he was here on Earth to fulfill those wishes. Fearfully, Sung-soo asked what he was talking about while holding his katana, while the boy added that after coming here, he had several questions. He pointed out that creations are beings made to fulfill the wishes of their creator, but humans had acquired other purposes and acted based on their own will. So he asked what wishes of their creator were they fulfilling there. Sung-soo drew his katana and shouted asking what this creator he was referring to was, and for him to revert his companions back to normal. He also asked if this was some kind of cult religion and pointed out that while the Outer Worlder might indeed be a child, he wouldn't let him do as he pleased if he continued to prank them. The Outer Worlder unsheathed the sword of one of his companions there and seriously questioned Sung-soo's inquiry about whether they were a cult, which sent chills throughout his body. He began to emit an extraordinary aura while angrily asking if he had blasphemed against his creator. He used Amplify on the sword he was holding, while Sung-soo tried to charge forward due to nervousness and fear. However, using just one swing of the amplified blade, the Outworlder managed to vertically slice this B-rank hunter. The strength of his swing also caused a cut in the wall behind his companions. Sung-soo's dropped sword hit the head of one guild member. After that, the Outer Worlder seriously stared at Sung-soo's lifeless body, and he also let go of the sword he was holding. Next, he told those he controlled that he was allowing them to see and hear again, and he ordered them to clean that place. As they left the office, they were greeted by worried guild members because of the noise they had made, and they even asked if there was another hunter who had destroyed that place. The Outer Worlder immediately controlled these two men and ordered them to forget what they had seen there. While walking, he pondered what free will was. All creations, he thought, were made solely to execute the wishes of their creator. However, the creations of this universe killed their own creator by their own will. Next, he entered the gate in Oniii-Chan with his army of controlled humans, and here they pinned down the boss monster there that looked like a bull. The Outer Worlder commented here that it was more accurate to call this creature a dimensional refugee roaming in the dimensional crack. He spoke to the beast here and said it must be painful to live wandering around after losing its home. So he took out a yellow crystal and said he would give it a chance to release its anger. He inserted the crystal into the forehead of this beast, which caused bright yellow light to emanate from its body, while he ordered it to go out and run as rampant as it wants. While that was happening, the Outer Worlder also said that he needed to investigate this world further. He said he would do that all for the sake of fulfilling the wish of their creator. In the next scene, we went to the airport in Korea. Here, The Hunter Association set up a barricade because a red gate appeared in the area. One of them commented that this looked dangerous, based on the magic power coming from that gate. If they didn't subjugate the boss monster quickly, he thought that a dungeon break was imminent. If that happened here, he worried that it would cause immense damage to the airport. It turns out these were people controlled by the Outer Worlder, as shown by their glowing yellow retinas. The Outer Worlder arrived there, and one of the controlled individuals told him that they would just report to the Hunter Association that there was no problem here, and he called him Apostle. Since controlled humans frequently called him Apostle, let's change what we call the Outer Worlder to that. The Apostle just stared at the red gate here, and before long, several monsters emerged from it because a dungeon break had occurred. Next, the Apostle explained to us what creations are. They are beings made to fulfill the wishes of their creator. If their creator was bored, they would fight each other. If their creator wanted something, they would do anything to offer it to him. That was the reason for the existence of creations like them. But one day, their creator, God, said that one of his kind in another dimension had died. He gave them a holy chalice and told them to bring the rights to the world that lost its master. They followed the words of their God and gathered many believers in their world. After that, their army departed for the world that lost its master. However, energy beyond their imagination was required to transport countless soldiers. The dimensional passageway was also too narrow to hold such a large amount of energy. Therefore, the crossing of the army of God through the dimensional passageway took a long time. Their army did not give up and eventually arrived at the world that lost its master. In that place, they saw the darkness, a pitch-black darkness of unfathomable depth. During these times, Jinwoo was the one who met them, where he immediately used his shadow extraction to envelop the enormous gate from which the creations were emerging. Because of this, they were transported to a dark place that resembled outer space, which puzzled them. Afterward, Jinwoo sent his shadow army charging against those who wished to conquer their peaceful world. The creation commented here that the darkness and its army all possessed tremendous strength. He added that the darkness was fearsome in many ways. If the soldiers of God that fought the darkness died, the darkness would envelop them and turn them into enemies. As the war went on, he continued, more soldiers died, and the power of darkness simply grew beyond their imagination. They were driven back by their momentum, and the war that started in the world that lost its master went beyond the confines of the dimension. The army of God fell into despair as it was unable to get past the darkness for a long time. Next, he said that the envoy of God, TL, then said that this was an opportunity. He pointed out that just like how it took a long time for them to get out, those who had gotten out of the darkness within the world that lost its master wouldn't be able to go back in easily due to the tremendous amount of magic power they possessed. He added that he didn't feel any magic power from the inhabitants of the world that lost its master, so he said that if they made use of Mistborns, they should be able to fell their world from within. Afterward, it was explained to us that the Mistborn are the lowest rank of believers who were destroyed and burned by the fire of faith, but still carry the will of God. He said that while they're weak, their explosive faith propagation ability is fatal to those who don't have much magic power. He also said that the army of God thought that when faith is propagated in the world that lost its master and the number of believers increases, they can manifest sanctuaries and miracles. Thus, all of them agreed with TL's strategy unanimously. After that, TL used his ability to split his strength and abilities into 5 fragments, and he had the weakest fragment carry the flame of the Mistborn to the world that lost its master. So, just as planned, the weakest fragment wasn't detected by the darkness and was able to successfully enter the world. However, he said, TL's first fragment that arrived there encountered unexpected variables. When it saw the hunters there, it only then learned that the beings who should have no magic power in this world now had magic power. After that, he said, it discovered that magic power emerged in this world along with the Great Cataclysm. The first fragment thus decided to wait for the other fragments, and it successfully fused with the second fragment at present. He added that to think they were able to experience such a good change during their war with them, making him think that someone must have planned this. He also pointed out that there should absolutely be no other setbacks to their plan. After that, he thought that among humans, It was important for him to understand the peak potential of entities known as hunters who possess magic power in order to fulfill his calling as a fragment of TL. After the explanation, we returned to the airport, and here the monsters that came out of the Red Gate began to wreak havoc, causing people to panic. A red orc and several goblins arrived there. A man immediately shouted that there was a dungeon break there and they should contact the Hunter Association. While this chaos was happening, the Apostle was thinking that if monsters with a lot of magic power rampaged there, high-ranking hunters would also come. If possible, he said, he wanted to see how strong an S-rank hunter was. There were several hunters in this area, so they immediately rushed there while worriedly asking why a dungeon break happened here, because wasn't there already an assigned guild to the gates in their vicinity? The Apostle noticed that the man was referring to the hunters at the gate, and he pointed out that they were using stardust. He then explained that stardust is the stimulant created by melting the faith of Mistborns. He added that while the faint trace of faith that accumulates within their body usually doesn't have much effect, if they use TL's Amplify ability to amplify their faith, it would be enough to affect those who consumed stardust. He used his control ability on the two hunters who tried to rush toward the monsters, where it immediately took effect. They stopped, and he immediately ordered them that they were being disruptive there, so they should go back, and they promptly obeyed him. A goblin jumped on a female civilian here and stabbed her in the back, causing her to collapse right in front of the Apostle. She weakly asked him for help, but he just stared at her cold-heartedly. While watching the woman die, the Apostle explained that creations exist for the Creator God. Therefore, he thought that the reason for life was simply to fulfill his wishes. However, he wondered why humans or those creations have desires which only the Creator should have. This made him think if the humans see themselves as superior to them. Meanwhile, as a male civilian was running, he encountered someone calmly standing in the way. This man commented that he couldn't believe a dungeon break was happening as soon as he returned to Korea. There was another man who tripped here, so the red orc immediately tried to hit him with its weapon. Fortunately, another man arrived on the scene who turned out to be Suho, and he solidly kneed the monster. He told the people there that he would hold off the monsters so they should run. He caught the attention of the Apostle, while he continued to take down several goblins there using his combat skills and ruler's authority. The Apostle saw his face with a black mask, so he remembered what Minsung said about the hunter who destroyed the hyena guild being a hunter wearing a black mask, and here he thought that man might be the disruptor that Minsung mentioned. In the next scene, we move to the situation in another part of the airport, where goblins were massacring innocent people in the area. Before long, Suho arrived there and quickly killed the goblins using his speed. In his mind, he was saying that it would be impossible for the Hunter Association to allow a dungeon break to happen at a gate where it could cause many casualties, so he also wondered what happened there. He said he needed to get people out of that place. While he was fighting, the Apostle stared at him. He was thinking there that because he could see there was no faith of Mistborns in Suho's body, he realized that he had not taken any stardust. He also noticed that his magic power was as strong as or slightly stronger than Minsung's. Suho used his shadow extraction here on the goblins he had killed, and he ordered them to help those who couldn't evacuate the area. The Apostle's eyes widened in shock when he witnessed this. He was baffled that he was seeing the authority that uses darkness, and he couldn't believe that there was a human who could use the authority of darkness. He said in his mind that if this human was related to darkness, it would make more sense why he would attack the Hyena Guild and the Stardust Factory to disrupt their plans. When Suho turned to look at him, the Apostle immediately averted his gaze and thought that he needed to hide his presence for now. While he was just thinking that they shouldn't let Suho realize their existence in this world, a fuel truck began to fly toward where they were. When it hit the building, it caused a massive explosion. However, because Suho thought he was just an innocent child, he saved the Apostle and couldn't believe that a truck would suddenly fly there. He shielded the Apostle with his body to protect him from getting hit, and asked if he was okay. Suho's eyes became serious because of what he was looking at, while the bull monster that the Apostle had given a yellow crystal to make it stronger approached him. It was also responsible for making the truck fly there. The beast immediately roared loudly, but it seemed like nothing to Suho as he just put on his hoodie. Suho noticed the symbol in the bull monster's eyes, and he wondered if this was the boss of the monsters that came out there. Biru told him that he could sense Itarim's energy coming from that monster. So he said that if that was the case, perhaps this dungeon break was related to Itarim. After that, Biru also suddenly felt a strange aura coming from behind him where the apostle was, so he wondered if he was just imagining it. The bull monster prepared to deliver a punch towards Suho, where he also prepared to charge while thinking that he would put all the stats he gained from reaching level 35 into his strength, which increased his strength stat to 77. Their fists clashed here, causing a powerful shockwave in the surroundings. While watching this, the apostle was puzzled because Suho saved him, and he also thought that he probably thought he was just a young human boy. He added that even though he was using the authority of darkness, he was extremely weak compared to the darkness. However, he said, his potential couldn't be determined yet. He said he was lucky to have seen him here because he could kill him immediately before he became stronger. Suddenly, a male individual arrived there, and he commented that he was late. While controlling the fire around them, he also said they should finish this quickly. The fire began to fly around here and surrounded the remaining small monsters in the area, which surprised and caught the attention of the apostle. Even Suho was puzzled by the movement of the fire there. After this man surrounded the monsters with fire, he closed his hand, which caused them to shoot rapidly toward the bodies of the enemies. Suho was completely shocked when he saw fireballs suddenly appear there and begin attacking the monsters. He found it hard to believe that so many monsters died in that brief moment. When he recalled the hunter who was controlling the fire, before long, he asked himself if Hunter Choi Jong-in, an S-rank hunter, was the one who had arrived there. Jong-in grinned when he saw the giant bull monster that withstood his attack, and he commented that its body was very tough. Because of that, he decided to use a stronger attack, where after clapping his hands together, he slowly pulled back his right hand. Before long, using his flame, he created a bow and arrow here and aimed it at the beast. The monster tried to rush toward him quickly, but before it could get close, he sent a flame arrow that solidly hit its mouth and caused it to fly far away from the building toward the nearby body of water. After that, Jong-in controlled the scattered fire around and quickly absorbed them while saying that with that, the situation was taken care of. The people were amazed at him and said that was expected from what they called the human weapon, while he waved and thanked them. Afterward, he looked to one side because he thought he noticed a child there. It turns out that Suho had hidden behind a broken wall, while Jong-in wondered why he would just leave after fighting until he arrived without accepting any credit. Suho commented in his mind that it was fortunate that he arrived. He also said that he couldn't allow his identity to be exposed, so he needed to get away from this place for now. He also pointed out that Itarim always acted secretly and nobody knew, so he couldn't believe they just attacked civilians in a place where there were many people. He thus asked himself what they could be planning. Time passed, and in the evening, we see the apostle observing the city from his room. A small gate began to appear behind him, and it gradually brightened. When he turned around, he called him the third fragment and said he was already here, to which the third fragment called him the second fragment and said it had been quite a while since they last met. After that, the apostle said that before he handed over this body to him, he would first give him a simple briefing. He explained to the third fragment that among the humans, the living organisms of this world, there exist beings who possess magic power called hunters. Moreover, he said that among the hunters, there are beings that are known as S-ranks who possess immense amounts of magic power, and they need to be wary of them. He also said there was a variable in this world, and they needed to eliminate it. The third fragment stopped him there and said he would just look at the memories of that body after he acquired it for other details. He said he had completed his duties and would be absorbed by him as planned. The second fragment's eyes seemed to become serious here, so the third fragment asked if there was a problem, to which he replied that it was nothing and he would just leave the rest to him. After that, he asked himself if what he was feeling was sadness that he would disappear from this world because a new personality would take over the body. However, he said that it can't be helped because after all, fulfilling the will of their God was the top priority in this world. He began to accept the third fragment into his body, causing it to glow with red light. While doing this, he just thought that all of this was for the great creator. He embraced the third fragment, and after it entered his body, they emitted a blinding glow that enveloped the entire room. After that, the light gradually faded, and their body appeared bigger as if the body grew taller and aged while emitting red and yellow aura. When the third fragment saw in their memory what the second fragment referred to as a variable, he commented that he didn't expect there would be a being here capable of using the same authority as darkness. He also said that the second fragment's final decision was wrong because it would be a waste if they eliminated him. Next, the more mature appearance of the apostle was shown here, and he added that because if they made that variable their follower, they would also be able to control even the dead.